Hey there, Marlo Robots, certified master empowerment coach here to tell you, even when you're a coach, you still need to be coached. Sometimes you have to coach yourself. I say that, I throw that title out there, certified master empowerment coach. I throw that out there almost flippantly, although I'm extremely proud of what I do. I say it like that because that is my quote unquote title. You would think every single minute of every single day I would get it right, but I don't. And I'm going to tell you how I had a moment today, and I want to see if you can relate, and then I have a couple of tips for how to walk through it. Okay, so here's the thing. I made a post today. I just did a talk recently, and I made a post about it. And a friend of mine uh, inquired. She said, "That picture that you had with the buckets on the stage, the true bucket and the false bucket, what does that mean?" And I made her a video and I was sending it to her. And as I'm doing the video and explaining it to her, I thought, why am I not sharing this with more people? And she said, you absolutely should. So that's why I'm creating this video. With what I do, I had this notion to create these buckets called true and false. Why? Because one of the things that I talk about, one of the talking points is that when we believe something about ourselves, and a lot of times they're limited beliefs, we start to collect evidence. And we either put evidence about who we are into the false truth bucket or the truth bucket. And let's be honest, a lot of times it does not fall into the truth bucket. And I explain that. And then sometimes people say, well, what do you mean by that? Let me explain. First of all, let me show you. This is the picture that she saw. It is from an event just this last week. And it has the true buckets and the false buckets. So, but I will explain that, and then people still say, what, give me a practical example. So here's an example from my very own life, and this is what I was explaining to my friend. Today, I was sitting at my computer, and I needed to do a task. I'm happy to do it, but it's not my lane. If you know me, I'm a creative. I love to talk to people, but the logistics of my business, I don't like it, but I have to do it. And I needed to do something that involved programming, technical things. And I asked a question, and in that moment, I was very triggered. I'm going to be authentic, real, and vulnerable. I got choked up. Then, because I got choked up, I started to judge myself. But why did I get choked up? It was because of a trigger. And I realized I started swimming in that pool of false truth. The trigger, one of the stories I've created about myself, and we all create stories and you don't know it. If you feel anxiety and pressure, it's probably because you've created stories and you don't talk about it. Maybe you just stuff it in. You keep them in, you keep them repressed, and that comes out as a byproduct somewhere of anxiety in so many different ways. It shows up. In that moment when I didn't know what to do, I forgot in that moment that that's not my lane. But I reverted back. I went back to stories that I tell myself that, you're stupid when it comes to these things. Why can't you pay attention? Why don't you know? You're running your business. You have to do these things. And I just started spiraling into these thoughts. And I realized in that moment I was swimming in a bucket of false truths. Regardless of the minutia of what they are, I ask you, what are yours? I was swimming in this bucket of false news about myself, false truths. That's what those buckets, when I have them on stage, when I speak, that's what they mean. And in that false truth bucket, I have it loaded with these really, really heavy chains. Because that's what we carry with us when we believe the false news about ourselves. How do we get that bucket of that news? Again, when we have a belief about ourselves, we go around like a detective telling ourselves that we collect evidence of that truth. If you tell yourself you're stupid, you will walk around and collect evidence, and it goes in that bucket. If you tell yourself you're not worthy in your subconscious, you will go around and you will collect evidence to prove that that is true, whether you know it or not. If you tell yourself you're not a good singer, you will prove and find evidence. If you tell yourself you're not a good enough parent, when you fail, you go, see, look at that and you put it in the false truth bucket and you hang on to it, and it wears you down like a chain. The truth bucket that I have on stage with me is filled with feathers. And that is when we can tell ourselves the truth. We can take that heavy load off of us. We are then walking around with truths that are a lot lighter and a lot more joy-filled to carry. And as I was sharing this with my friend, she said, she said something and she was so right, and I'm going to share this with you. I didn't even think about it this way. But she said, with those chains, they are heavy. And in my events, sometimes I have people come up and hold the chains. And that's because sometimes we need help in taking those chains off, because they don't always come off overnight. Now, I am a faith-filled believer. My first go-to this morning, I'm going to tell you what I did in my solutions, but sometimes we need help to carry those chains. And as far as coaching, that is where I come in. I love to help people. I love to come and speak at events. I love to do workshops. I can't talk enough about what I do because I love it. You know why I love it? Because I've walked through the muck. I've cried. I've stood in the muck. I've processed, and I know what it feels like. But I have learned how to close the gap between the adversity that I feel in the peace a lot faster than I used to. So what's a practical step for doing this? Again, the chains aren't going to come off overnight. Sometimes it's a process, but why not start the process today? For me, I'm a faith-filled believer. I told my husband, I packed up my things and I said, I need to leave. By the way, the byproduct of the way we feel about our stories, it comes out in our relationships and in our workplace and all around us. I almost snapped at him, but I realized I was telling myself stories, and I needed to go and process through that because my triggers were driving my bus. I don't want my relationships with the people that I love or that I work with I don't want them to have to then put my chain on them. Do you do that? I've done that, but I close the gap between adversity and peace, and I know how to step away from that. What did I do in that moment? I gathered my things. I actually went in the room. I let some of the tears go. I was overwhelmed. I was just overwhelmed. And I let them go. And then I said, I know what I need to do. I need to pack my things. I need to come down to my waterfall that I go to, or a place where you feel peace. I connected back in with God. That's what I do. I know who I belong to and who tells me the truth about who I am. That's the first place. The second place that I needed, what I needed to do is I needed to recenter the truth. I needed to sit down, physically picture that false truth bucket, and all the false truths I was telling myself, I needed to go back over and rewrite them and tell the truth about who I really am and what I am really trying to do and my strengths and the way that I am getting it right and how I was just in my wrong lane, and that's a little more challenging for me. So that's what I did. I reframed it. I leaned in on my faith. I reframed it, and I feel so much more peaceful. And that's how you can do it. You can do that yourself. But if you do need help and support in walking through that, understanding how to tell your story, understanding how to even get in that bucket and pull out the truth, where to find the truth, all that, that's what I love to do. So I don't only love it, it is my passion, it is my honor to be able to walk people through what they're going through, rewrite their story so that your stories can begin to propel you in your life instead of paralyze you. You can tell your stories in a way where you have healthy relationships instead of sabotaging your relationships. That's a little tidbit for today. Sending you all so much love. To learn more about what I do, you can go to marlorutz.com. That's my website, or you can go to YouTube and subscribe to my channel, Marlo Rutz. Hit the notification bell, and when I put out new content, a new show, whatever it is I'm doing that's my passion to help people, you will be notified. All right, sending y'all love. Bye, everybody.